Hello, friends. I'm Wendy Joe, and this is the Grow Podcast. And I'd like to introduce my co host, Miss Ashley. How are you today?
I am good, Wendy. How are you today? I'm really excited to talk about the tarot.
I am too. I love doing card readings for myself, for other people, and it's sort of evolved over the years. When were you introduced to the tarot?
Probably maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm pretty new to it.
Uh-huh.
And when I first learned about it, somebody told me that unless it's introduced to you, the card deck was introduced to you somehow, then you shouldn't like dabble into the tarot.
Oh,
And yeah, so I think for a long time I wouldn't deal with it just because I was given that advice. And eventually I was like, you know what? For some reason I feel drawn to it and I'm getting
mhm.
these cards. This is what
Nice.
we're doing.
Yeah, I have never heard that. But, people have different thoughts and ideas about the tarot, how to use it, whether you should, use the book that comes with each deck, and also different rituals around it. Like I know I have a very dear friend that always knocks on the deck before she starts taking cards. She'll kind of shuffle them and then do a little knock.
Knock
Um,
on the deck. Knock.
yes, yeah,
Okay.
kind of like let me in, hello.
Okay.
So
Cool.
people have different ideas, and I'm not here to say whether they're right, wrong, or otherwise. I kind of feel like it's less mystical than people make it,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of a practical spiritualist, I guess.
I like that. A practical spiritualist. I also think that is not that mystical. To me, they're just a card deck.
Right, right, right. Like people will say, "Oh, be careful with those. Don't get them dirty," or
Hmm.
make sure you clear the energy. And I get some of that, right? I do think sometimes it's nice, to sit them outside in the moonlight, and kind of cleanse them a little bit. But I'm just not that woo woo about it, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like some of those things, those are what I call tokens.
Mm,
Like the trigger to kind of bring spirit and physical presence together.
hmm.
So like some of the rituals that we create, like I could knock too, but it probably wouldn't resonate as much because to me, in this physical presence is not a token for me. It doesn't equate to anything for me, you
Okay,
know?
right.
Um, so I think that's why and you have to be drawn to the token in some way. It has to be meaningful
Hmm.
for it to transcend, transcend spirit. Let me get that out.
Right. Right.
So I don't know, just a thought. That's always what I've labeled it as. Have you ever put any thought into that?
Well, I have because people say all kinds of ritualistic types of things to me when
Mhm.
they come for a reading, or when we talk about the decks. And I kind of came to tarot in my early 30s, and after a healer did a reading for me with the Osho Zen deck, that really resonated with me.
Mhm.
But just prior to that, I actually at the time had a small gift shop in a town in Massachusetts, and we hired a tarot reader to come in on Friday nights and on Saturday, because people were interested in that. And that was kind of my real introduction. And I just was really drawn to him. And when he read cards for me, it resonated that what he was saying was the truth.
Mhm.
And so that was my full introduction initially. And he was using the Rider Waite deck and also a straight deck of playing cards.
That's cool.
And yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. So I wanted to learn about that. And so he started teaching me, and I was memorizing what the cards mean, and in the straight deck, what the suits mean and what the numbers mean. And it seemed like a lot of homework,
Yeah, it is.
and at the same time, I was like, it didn't fully resonate with me. Like I could do it, but I was getting other messages that I didn't quite understand. I was new to all of it, and it wasn't what I had memorized. It was more like what I felt about a person sitting with me or myself. So when I then went and had an Osho Zen reading from a healer, it was completely different, and those cards really resonated with me. And that healer said to me, because I had learned some of the rituals, right? So I was like shuffling a certain way, and laying, and he's like looking at me, and he's like, "You don't have to do all that."
Yeah.
And that resonated with me because I'm a more practical spiritualist, it turns out. And so anyway, the Osho Zen, it just kind of hit me, boom, like it felt like the truth. It resonated. And he told me not to read the book that came with the deck. That was someone else's interpretation.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
we kind of touched on that before we started recording.
right.
And, you know, the people who create the decks, it's an intuitive process for them too. And so I think it's our responsibility to interpret based on our intuition as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't have to recreate what somebody intuitively designed. You have to create for yourself. We're all individuals. We all have our own message, our own purpose. And so, leveraging the tool that somebody created in the best way, in my opinion, is by, recognizing the individuality behind how you interpret.
Right. Right. I completely agree. And I think when we first started talking about this podcast and we were talking about the cards, and I realized that you felt the same way about it, that was, I just started buzzing kind of in my solar plexus. I was like, this is the right person, because we kind of had that same understanding. And so each person has the ability to open their channel to find what their gift is with the cards. And I think that really brings so much more to a reading.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, even because we did a Facebook Live once where we were looking through the cards, even our interpretations were slightly different, but they somehow seemed to like fit like a puzzle piece together,
Right.
which I thought was really, really interesting. So it wasn't like a disjointed thought, like I said this and you said that, and take which one you want. It was
Right.
like, no, it was a solid full message. So it was almost like it complemented itself.
I
And
agree.
so, even when we connect with other people, being able to even have conversation in that way where we recognize the it being together. I want to say like enjoying nature of it.
Right.
Is where I think meeting with this tool is important.
I agree. And we will be right back.
What does tarot have to do with spirituality? It's played a big part in my spiritual journey. I even included tarot in my book, Stigmatized. You may or may not know this already, but there are various tools to help guide you through your spiritual experience. I am really drawn to the cards, though. But I realized a lot of people are actually scared of tarot cards. Tarot cards are just cards, but they help create a perception of balance and give you perspective of a current situation that you might be dealing with. A lot of times, just intuitively interpreting the cards can help put you back on track. You don't have to know a ton about the symbolism, and you don't have to do tarot reading. I use my cards more for a grounding mechanism, have something in my hands, give me something to look at, and create perspective. Would you use tarot cards?
And we're back. And in this episode, we're talking about tarot cards as a spiritual tool. We were just discussing intuition versus using a book with the deck and how that all works. I think I usually recommend to people, this is what I did. This is what was recommended to me and what I usually recommend. Take the deck, put the book in the freezer or somewhere, or throw it away somewhere where you won't feel tempted to open it, and take 1 to 3 cards each day, whatever deck you're using, and write about the card and go through the whole deck that way. Don't do more than 3 a day. It's not a rush job. You're basically working on opening your channel, right? So it takes time. And when you get through the deck, do it a second time. And you'll see that the content starts to change as you work through it. So
Yeah, and and you told me that when we first met, and I was like, I really appreciate that perspective, because in general, when I first was introduced, I took it as a homework assignment. Like, we're going to figure these cards out today. That's the goal.
Right. Yes, right. I mean, I understand that mentality. We're both health professionals. We're both, have studied, right? So we're like, oh, I'm just going to study this and get it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you told me that, I was like, you know what? That's the process. That's the process for building a relationship with the cards, because it is a relationship. The way that I look at a card, and we kind of talked about in the last segment, the way I look at a card versus somebody looking at the same card is going to be different. And so, being okay with that is part of that relationship building process. And so taking it 1, 2, or 3 cards a day, I think just kind of lightens the load of just trying to be present with them and not like look ahead to the future. We're just always so future oriented with our.
We are. And, and that's interesting too, because for my gift, I am generally not looking ahead for people, somewhat a little bit, but my, I tend to help them piece together the past and how that's affecting the present, and how they could make some changes once they know that information, to move forward. So it really depends on what you've been given, and what develops how you will use this tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I love my cards. Honestly, I love them. Not that they changed my life, but it just helps keep me grounded. So like just putting them in my hands, just looking at my interpretation of the cards throughout the day, is very like grounding in nature and helps create balance and perspective. Sometimes.
I like that. Yeah, I think that's true. It can create more balance, so I, dabbled with the straight deck of cards with the Rider Waite, right? But I really settled. The Osho Zen feels like home to me. And the cards are, kind of made to help you sort out and have a better here and now. That's part of what they were designed for, but I know that you use other decks too.
Yeah. So you introduced me to the Osho Zen, and I love that deck. And so I actually keep it on my altar. And nice. So I also have, I forget the name of the deck. I mean, to me, it doesn't matter what the name is, in my opinion. But anyway, it's more of a multicultural version of the Rider Waite deck. And
that is very cool.
It is. It's really cool. I have them here. So that's one of them.
Oh,
and
nice.
So I keep that at my desk. And these cards were the cards that inspired my book Stigmatized. So each part is not even chapters, is each part is named one of the major arcana from the deck. Nice. And so, I talk about my interpretation, how it gave me balance at certain phases of my life, that kind of thing. And just even how, we talked about inner child work on one of the episodes, like even being able to look back and leverage those cards to kind of help me see it through the adult lens that I needed to see it. So, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it that they're multicultural. I hadn't even thought about that as far as the Rider Waite. It's so, so based in one particular culture, right?
Yeah.
And even the Oshos, and I mean, they're beautiful cards, right? I'll show you a couple of them. Yeah, they're really beautiful, but it definitely doesn't have that multicultural feel to them, which I think is important. We're talking about this is one of my favorites, Beyond Illusion.
Yeah.
here's the success card. They're really beautiful.
Mhm.
Um,
I think that's the thing that drew me to it is like the color and the beauty
mhm,
of those cards. And I think the symbolism was the main focus as opposed to the people.
right. I
Hmm.
agree. Right. There's a lot of symbolism. And in fact, because I've never really read the book, like I don't know what exactly they were trying to do.
Yeah.
I do know there's a major and minor arcana, just like in the Rider-Waite, and but there's numbers on there, there's triangles, there's
Hmm.
all different things. And interestingly enough, so I have taught how to read in that way, right? So I did an adult ed class in Massachusetts. People initially would be stuck on the colors, right, or just the picture itself,
Oh yeah.
and some people would get stuck on the numbers or
Right.
the triangle, right, and things that I didn't even notice on the cards.
Yeah.
So it was very cool because as we went along, those things that were so important to them when they looked at the picture initially became really part of what their gift was with the card,
Mm.
and they were getting totally different things than someone else. Um, so, I think it's really worth tapping into that intuition and see what you see, for
Yeah.
that person or for yourself. I think for yourself is really the most important part.
Hmm.
But I think some people are kind of afraid to read for themselves. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I I think people are just scared of the cards altogether.
Oh,
Yeah, like I don't know if it's necessarily the fear of interpreting for themselves. I think there's a fear of just really engaging with the cards. It's, almost like meditation. Like, what if I hear something or see something or learn something that I probably shouldn't know? And
yeah.
so, I think there's a lot of stigma around the tarot. So, one of the reasons why I made that the parts in the book was one, because I didn't want it to be the same as anybody else's,
Mm-hmm.
but two, because if you know, and you're going to engage with these cards in a way that doesn't induce fear and
Mm-hmm.
still get the benefit of the card,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
For
because I
sure.
just feel like a lot of people are just missing out because of fear on a lot of topics.
I think that's true in many ways in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
We miss out on things because of fear. That's,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're able to walk through that fear, you see the world in a much broader sense. And it's the same thing with the tarot decks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And we will be right back.
Have you heard of the Cannabis Nursing School? It's a place where cannabis nursing, entrepreneurship, and spirituality meet. The Highline Tribe is waiting for you, and it's so easy to find. CannabisNursingSchool.com.
Hey there, friends. If you're an intuitive like me, you have thoughts and feelings about your own health and sometimes the health of others. What you're dealing with is medical intuition, but you probably don't know how to harness it. Hey, I met this wonderful woman named Gina, and she's doing a training on medical intuition with her company, The Heal World. Let's face it, there's lots of people getting sicker and sicker, and they often don't find answers with mainstream medicine. We have lots of technology, but we're missing the key: medical intuition. If you'd like to learn more, you could email her at gina@blisslife.com or give her a call at 352-888-2100. The Heal World. And we're back. So I want to go back to our discussion earlier when we were talking about how we went live on Facebook and we're reading cards. First of all, I want to say I had no idea that you hadn't read for other people because it came very naturally to you.
Wow. Yeah.
And I felt like you were really right on target. We got different things, but they were really complementary. It was like two puzzle pieces like fitting together.
Yeah. And it was really interesting and just generally shocking for me. And so I'm glad that it came off natural.
I love how you just walk into things like talk about no fear, right? You're just like, oh yeah, we'll do that.
Right. I'm like, okay, as and it's so funny. I just spent the weekend with my parents and my mom mentioned, she's like, you're fearless. Like everything is just a fearless, careless nature about you. And that's not true. It's not fearlessness. It's just I tend to want to lean into it to get over the fear
Okay.
because I don't like the feeling of being scared.
hmm
And
I
so,
can
yeah.
relate to that for sure. I've spoken many times. I like public speaking, but it's also is I'm very, very fearful every single time, no matter how many times. But I feel like if I don't keep walking into it, I'm not, people always tell me they walk away with all this wisdom and learn things and understanding. And so I want to give that.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to lean in sometimes, even though you feel afraid.
Yeah. Somebody once told me, your gifts don't serve anyone, not even yourself, if they never get expressed.
Exactly. Exactly. So I am so glad that you agreed to do that live stream with me. And I think we have more work to do with readings because it just was so complimentary and natural. And so, would you like me to pull a card for
Yeah.
you or for me, or what would you like to
I
do?
think it should be for the audience.
Oh, what a great idea. Let's pull one for the audience. Ah, this is one of my favorite cards in the deck, in the
Oh,
Osho Zen
I'm
deck.
interested.
It's called Adventure.
Ooh. Oh, and it's perfect for the audience.
It is.
Yeah, I love it. So you start. You start.
Okay. So I feel that those who are taking the time to listen to a podcast like this are ready for an adventure. Some people have already stepped squarely on their path. Some people are thinking about it. Some people want as much information as possible before they really step in. They're just dabbling their toe a little bit. And this card is saying it really is an adventure. It's there's so much color behind and ahead, and the purple behind too really pulls spirit in. It's saying, you know, spirit has been with you, is still with you on this adventure of life, and you may need to look back a little bit, but spirit will be there with you. And ahead, there's all this range of color for you to delve into.
Yeah, I love that. First of all, I didn't even notice the purple in there until you mentioned it. But for me, it's really about like expansion, being able to walk in purpose. That's what I feel. And take up space, be present, expand your aura, share, give words of wisdom.
I love that too. Yes, see, it's a perfect compliment. Yes. Um, yeah, so, whatever deck you feel drawn to, if you pick up the deck, you'll know kind of as you work with it and take a look at it, and like you said earlier, really create a relationship with the cards, um, and go through and journal about them, like I mentioned earlier, meditate on them, look at them frequently. That's really how to open your channel. In addition to that, kind of clearing your past and understanding yourself will help you with using this tool for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, do you want to pull one from your multicultural deck?
Sure. Let's see.
All right, let's see what card it is. Oh, Judgment.
Judgment. You are the ultimate being. You have everything right at your force, like just below you, sitting below you. I always resonate with this character here. She is the angel floating above. She is, angelic. You are angelic. You need to lean into the angelic nature of it. When I think of her floating in the air, even though air is soft, it has a very precise nature about it, like it cuts through a river. Right. And so like that precision also needs to be leaned into. And so just keep keep moving.
Hmm. I like that. The word judgment, I'm really drawn to that word, judgment. And I think that many times people want to take steps to heal, to move forward, to live into their dreams, but they apply so much judgment to themselves.
Mm.
I won't be able to do it. I don't have the skills. I'm not good enough. I don't look good enough, whatever it is, right?
So
We're
true.
judging. That's what's holding back. And I feel like this angel above, it's kind of saying, reach out for spiritual guidance, reach out
Mm.
for help. It's there for you. And whether it's through meditation, through a healer, however it is, um, to help you release these judgments and feel freedom to step forward and make your choices.
Let it be so. I love it.
Yes. Well, this has been very cool. I hope people have enjoyed this introduction to tarot. By no means is it a complete
Right.
explanation at all, but I think it's a good start, a good introduction, and I hope whatever deck you choose, you enjoy it and find some wisdom.
Same here. Thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.
Bye.